Abbie Diamantopoulos, thanks for hopping on the Witness Business Podcast, all the way from right down the street from me. How are we doing today?
We're doing good.
Doing
Thanks for having me.
Gotta
Yeah,
be Chicago for first-time listeners, folks.
Chicagoland. All right, we
Yeah.
don't claim Chicago
We say
entirely.
we're from Chicago if we're in the city.
Yeah, if I'm like in Florida visiting and people say where are you from, I'm from Chicago. But
Is this that same sort of concept where you're like, "Chicago is great. We love the summer." Is it like that?
Oh yeah,
well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah.
Mhm.
But
we don't talk about the winter.
if you're in the burbs though, you tell them exactly where you're from because then you start. They can piece it all together.
Geolocating.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, Abby, one thing we like to start the show off with for most of our interview guests is this question. What would you say is the worst job you've ever had?
Oh my gosh, that is so easy. So my parents, I come from Southern Missouri, and basically when I could start thinking about working and bringing in an income, they shoved me into an accountant's office, and I was a secretary. And it was during the summer, and it was the most boring thing ever. I played what was that game? It's like Minecraft. Is it Minecraft? I played that for
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper. I played that for eight
Oh,
hours
wait.
a day when I
Well,
was
there's there.
15.
Hold on. There's Minecraft and Minesweeper.
It was
Minecraft is
definitely
more.
Minesweeper.
Yeah. Okay.
Minecraft is like you have to get on the internet. We're talking about the little game
Yeah,
where you
yeah, yeah. I
push the
still play.
box and
I
I
then you
still
hit
It was
play
bombs.
before our
Minesweeper.
time back then. But
Yeah.
no, I played Minesweeper for 8 hours a day my entire summer when I was 15. It was the worst job of my life. And it made me steer into finance versus going into accounting.
All right. Well,
Just
I
be.
mean, some people kind of hem and haw over that answer, like, "Oh, I'm not sure," and you were like, "I was ready for
Never.
this."
Yep.
Well, we like to ask the follow up. What did it? Did it maybe like help you propel you into success in any way? Do you think you can draw other than like propelling you into an entirely different career? Can you draw anything from that experience that you can say, you know what, that did help me become successful in some obscure way?
Yeah, I think so because she was a startup, and I've always loved numbers. I mean, math has been my favorite subject since I could add, and so I knew I wanted to do something in business. And sitting there realizing that all she does is taxes, I'm like, no, thank you. And so that's what steered me into finance. But also, I've helped 10 startups get off the ground since then because I think I watched her come in and do the grit as a woman and a mom, and so I think that probably taught me pretty early on that I wanted to be a boss lady, and kind of steered my career from that perspective.
Well, one of those startups is part of why we're having you on
Yeah.
today. Although I guess maybe not startup, but a startup within a franchise, which is something that Steve and I told you up front. We're very interested to hear more about. So we'll go
Well,
ahead and give you the opportunity. Oh,
well, I want
Steve
to
wants to
say,
say,
before we get started talking about franchising, because that's ultimately why we're having you on today is to talk
Yeah.
about your franchise. You guys just recently started. We want to know how that's going, kind of how to get started for those interested in maybe franchise opportunities. But you said you've helped 10 startups get off the ground.
Yeah.
So maybe let's talk about that sort of your background.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? And then, give us the lay of the land of what you've done over these last 15, 20 years of your career.
he's asking for your street cred.
That's all right. I got it.
Give me that
You always
street
have to
cred.
bring value to the room you're in,
Yeah.
and it's truly actually what led me to tell my husband, say yes, go take this leap of faith. So to by way of background, I started my career at Boeing, in financial controls. Again, always chasing those numbers and solving the math problem. But I quickly realized I didn't want to be one of 14,000 in St. Louis, and that's just one spot of where Boeing was. So I left there to go do investments. Also hated that. And so, migrating from St. Louis to Chicago, I landed at Miller Coors, and it was the coolest job ever because it was so fun. They stopped every day at 4 o'clock. They made you go try the new beers on the 16th floor, over the river. And it was really
Twist my arm. I guess I'll go try the new beers.
it was so fun, but I'll tell you, being from Southern Missouri, telling my mom that I was leaving St. Louis to go work in Chicago at Miller Coors, leaving Anheuser-Busch
Yeah.
land. And then, by the way, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series that year. My mom was like, don't call, don't write. You're now at Miller Coors. You're in Cubs territory and you're in Chicago. No, thank you.
Real quick, just a quick
If
aside.
you're not from that part of the country, you just don't get it.
Real quick aside. I think we're all in good company here. St. Louis Cardinals.
Of course.
Okay,
Yes.
diehards. Let's
Always.
go. We got to preach that. Anyway, I just wanted to
I mean, I still
plug
think
plug the
it's
Cardinals in there.
Yeah, I still think they got to bring McGuire Highway back. I mean, I still have the attire of 1999 of what that
Uh-huh.
was.
I'm still living on 2011. When I'm having a bad day at work, I will watch the 2011 World Series
I was
highlights.
there.
You were
I've
there.
not
I was
had
there.
I've not had a
At
day
game
that bad.
6?
Wait,
So
was it Patios that was right by the Cardinal Stadium? It had to be.
I think so.
I was at Patios because you couldn't get in. And I remember thinking if I jumped just like 5 inches, I wouldn't even hit the ground because it was so packed. But I still don't know if it was as cool being in Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series.
It was pretty lit. Like
People
the
are losing their minds, I'm sure.
city was lit for
Yeah.
sure. But
Okay, so we digress. So it
yeah.
ended up in Chicago, and I was 11 months working at Miller Coors. I'm like, this is the coolest job ever. I can kind of take a nap while still getting my job done because that's corporate America. And I get this email from a man named Larry, and he says, "Do you want to come be CFO of a startup company? It's in seafood." And I'm like, well, first off, hell yeah, I'm 27. I want to be go CFO, but also I've been raised on fried catfish out of the Mississippi, and I have no knowledge of seafood. But I took the journey, and I actually went and met the CEO and his first sales guy in the back of what it was called Wickster Market. It was in Wicker Park, and they basically sold me the idea of Norwegian seafood, and I don't know if they had a plan, but I believed them, and that was my first taste of startup. So we went from 2 million to about $500 million in a matter of 7 years with 20 employees, and it was the coolest journey of my life because I not only got to be controller, CFO, but also really kind of migrate through every department of what a startup does. And so that was really, really incredible. And it was such a fun journey. And I traveled the world because of it. Went from there to a private equity startup out of Oak Brook, where we basically sold office to the CFO. Worked there for 2 years as a chief of staff, helped them really get their human resources under control, help their sales team, you name it, anything that the CEO needed. Went from there to venture capital, which was probably the biggest honor I've had to do from a career perspective in my life, because my coworkers were ex-Navy SEALs, ex-Green Berets. They were everybody coming out of the military, transitioning into what a really civilized person would be. And then we invested in startups of ex-military founders. It was truly, when I tell you, like, an absolute honor, because my dad served in the Army, and I felt like it was my calling to go, fulfill his dream. But during that time, Tommy, my husband, was starting scooters. And so we found scooters being in the boot heel of Missouri. And we talked to the owner, and he'd really pitched us on this like beautiful idea of getting into a franchise and then, being a part of that success. So the owner down there, had 10 scooters. They opened in COVID, scaled dramatically. He had changed his life. He was a P&G worker, and now he owns 10 franchises. And so my husband were like, this feels easy. If someone in Southern Missouri can do it, I can do it. And that was really what led us to there. So as we were starting to open scooters and really getting to the grit of what was about to come, which was opening day, the best thing that my VC CEO did for me is he said, I think we need to part ways. I think you need to go help your husband open this business, because what we realized is that although they lay the groundwork for you and they give you a template and they provide you with so much resources and support, it is freaking hard. And it became really, really hard on my husband as we're trying to hire for the actual operations day to day, figuring out what inventory we needed to buy. We'd never been in coffee. We knew nothing about the general population and how much they consumed. What we knew is we thought we had a great location. So I actually, I ended with the VC, and in that, while doing scooters, I opened up my own consulting business from CO perspective. And now I'm helping five clients that are startups really scale. So that's kind of how we get to the 10 startups, and what's led me to scooters and then my own business.
I love that your first client, it was just built in. You're like, you need help, I can provide it.
100%. Yeah.
And just maybe to over communicate for the listening audience, especially if they don't have a scooters near them, can you kind of talk about what Scooters is, what they provide,
Yeah.
what the value proposition is versus other coffee companies on the
Yeah,
market.
absolutely. So Scooters was really created based off of the drive-through model. They were branded in Nebraska. Saw incredible success there. And then during COVID, they absolutely blew up because you have this 600 square foot kiosk that's only a drive-through. So their whole model is get in and get out. And actually we're measured against that. We call it smiles per hour. You want them sitting in the lane as like least amount of time as possible while getting the quality product. So that's the entire model of how we differentiate ourselves from the other competitors, whether it be Seven Brew, who still has like a line down Ogden, I'm sure right now, and Starbucks and Dunkin', you name it. It was truly getting your coffee and getting on your way as quickly as possible while still getting a quality product and serving it with a smile. And Scooters, I mean, if you go in, their menu is incredible. I mean, they serve everything from the child in the back seat all the way to the person that just wants black coffee. We've got lattes, we've got frozen drinks, we've got smoothies, you name it. We can truly make it. And then our food menu is quite broad too. We've got anything from, dollar mini donuts to really fantastic spicy burritos to really give that protein boost in the morning. But the menu is quite broad. And I think one of the things that also sets Scooters apart is their brand recognition. It's still growing. So they obviously started in Nebraska. It's rapidly growing in the Midwest, but it's starting to see itself on the East and West Coast. I think Chicagoland still struggles a little bit because we do have so much competition that the brand recognition itself it's a little harder to get into. It's harder to disrupt, but we are hustling every day to do that.
So I actually want to just go back a step, like even beyond the question that I had. Like I feel like Dutch Bros are super popular as far as franchise chains that are popping up, but even beyond coffee options that you have, moving a step back even further from that, you have an interest in franchising. Why coffee? I mean,
Yeah,
why that? I mean, you've explained why Scooters
yeah,
within the coffee world, but why this
yeah.
out of all the options that are out there?
So it's actually a really personal story. 3 years ago, when we discovered Scooters, we had to go back down to Southern Missouri because my dad was suffering from Agent Orange from being in Vietnam for so long. And we had spent, I think, 3 weeks down there. So we had basically uphold or just basically to shovel our family. We picked up from Hinsdale. We went down to Southern Missouri. I had a 5-week old baby who was colicky, and if you know what that is, like it was just terrible circumstances. I'm in the hospital the entire time. And Tommy, on his way from where our family was staying to the hospital, Scooters was on that highway. And so he would stop every day. And he was like, these people were so nice. And then I ended up walk away with like $30 worth of stuff. And I only came to get you a coffee. And it became like a daily routine where he was bringing me these like warm cup of coffee that was exactly what I wanted while I was sitting there with my dad, who was like, that was just a milestone in my life that was kind of going away. And so when I think about Scooters, I still get chills to this day of thinking like it just brought me happiness in that moment. And that's where I'm like, wait, is this new? Can we learn about this? Is this just Southern Missouri? And then that's when he did his research and found that it was a franchise. And when we tapped into it, there was no true Scooters, really hit the market in the Chicagoland. So Sandwich, Illinois, which I have no idea where that is because I'm geographically challenged. It's somewhere around this area, had just broke ground. Naperville was going as well. So we were like, okay, well, if they're moving in these bigger areas, maybe it's something that we can get into. And so we met with the team and we realized that the area that we live in was untapped yet. And so we bought in as soon as we could.
Now, you mentioned the competitiveness. So let me back up. It sounds like you were more interested in Scooters than you were interested in
Yeah.
franchising in general.
We had never even thought about investing in a franchise until we found out about Scooters. Because honestly, they all kind of felt unobtainable. Because when you think about franchises, my mind immediately goes to Chick-fil-A, and this is not accurate. I'm just spitballing here, but I think you have to have like a net worth of some incredible millions of dollars. And so we never even considered it. My husband was in sales. He had an easy life. Like it was, come and go. And I was doing my own thing too. And so it was truly Scooters that had made us think like, oh, this franchisee possibility is there.
Now, for the entrepreneur or the maybe the entrepreneurial spirit out there who wants to get in the game but is scared to take the leap, were there any fears? Like you mentioned earlier,
Gosh, yeah.
like Starbucks is everywhere. There's a Starbucks on excuse me, on every corner.
Yeah.
There's a Dunkin' on every corner. There's 7 Brews popping up everywhere. Like, so how did you overcome that fear and say, you know what, we're gonna do scooters, we're gonna do it well, we're gonna be the scooters people for our area,
Yeah.
and screw the competition, we're gonna be, the best. How do you get there mentally?
Yeah. So for us, it was, I mean, here's the thing is we bought in to scooters in 2022. So it took us a long time to find the location that we wanted. And really in that time, we had determined, Seven Brew, I don't think had even been built at that point. So that wasn't, it was kind of far off in our mind. So it was really like, how do we disrupt the market from Starbucks and Dunkin'? And if you think about everybody that, is in my network, I'm sick of Starbucks. There's no reason like I would want to go through that drive through because the coffee doesn't even taste good to me anymore. So we were starting to go locally as well. And we had noticed everybody else seemed like they were making that shift. And truly from a brand perspective and what scooters brought, and then also the quality of the coffee so that, they own the supply chain. We just thought that was incredible. And we thought it would be a story that people who were looking for a different option would grasp onto.
I love your story, first of all, just the personal touch of it. But I guess really where I feel like most people's minds go from here, or where you guys are different, I guess I should say, is you have this experience. It's a memory. It's provided positive value in a difficult time.
Yeah.
But for most people, that's the story. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you remember how we used to go there all the time? When you drive by one 6 months later. But you guys are like, let's get in on that.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Because I just imagine I'm imagining Steve here. Like he drives through the drive-through at Scooters and he's like, "Hi, I'd like a coffee, breakfast burrito, and how do I own one of these?"
Let me just say what Kyle does every episode. Instead of taking ownership, he throws me under the bus. He's
That's
like,
all
I'm
right.
just imagining Steve just fumbling his way through this. Like,
But Kyle, if you knew my
he doesn't
husband,
correct me.
yeah, if you knew my husband, that was probably the exact conversation that he had with the barista that probably had zero idea of how to do it. But to be honest, so Tommy, he's a first generation Greek. So his parents, they obviously came in and they created the Greek restaurant because what else do you do as a Greek in Chicago? So he had that bone in him because every Sunday when I tell you, like, it was after I met Tommy, he's like, our first son's name's going to be named George. And then, by the way, I'm at the restaurant every Sunday. I'm like, okay. And so he had that innate hospitality in him. And from a sales perspective, like he can go kill it because he's a personable person, but he wanted to own something because his dad came over and did that. And so I think that was his way of like, you know what, I can do this because the model's already been built. I don't have to start from scratch. Just have a little bit of money to put in from an investment standpoint. And I can step into a model that has already been proven to be successful. Where we challenge ourselves is, can we make it successful in the Chicagoland area? And that's where we're still finding our footing and our path there. But that's really what got us to that point is like, he truly wanted to own something while still honoring his innate ability to be a people person. And he loves hanging out the window every day and handing people coffee. And I'm like, can you come home and watch our 3 kids? Cause I need help too. But he loves it.
And we can't have competition in we can't have 2 Greek restaurants in the same area.
No.
Well, you talk about buying in, 3 years ago, or so, and not actually like having a location for almost 3 years. So what did that look like? What does buying in mean? And then like, what's the process, I guess, from buying into the franchise leading up to owning and operating a franchise?
So, I'll start out by saying it's not like we came to the table with a ton of money. So we did have to get an SBA loan, which is quite scary because you're putting a lot of assets on the table. But what was nice is like Scooters from a buy-in perspective from a franchisee, I think is on the lower end when you compare yourself to other franchises. So it made it feel like it was more accessible. And then once we bought in, like it starts, like they are meeting with you weekly. They are preparing you for you to be able to be the best owner possible. And the reason it took us 2 years is scooters won't let you even buy into like a B, C, D grade location. They are making you go count cars. They're advising you on certain, traffic situations so that you are set up for success. And when we bought this area, it's actually kind of hard to find that kind of location where it needed to be really on a corner, because you think about the morning traffic of getting in and getting out. People don't want to veer off too far from the beaten path. And so it took us a long time to find that location and really make sure that it was a location that was going to bring in the morning traffic. It was going to be ease of getting in and getting out, and that traffic count was there. So I can't tell you how many times Tommy had gone around in the area and he had a clicker and he was clicking every time a car passed from 6 to 7 a.m. because scooters requires you to do that before they'll even sign off and allow you to kind of move in on a location.
Let me tell
I love
you.
the idea. I love the idea of someone driving by and being like, "There's that clicker guy again."
It was Tommy. And what the most hilarious part of this and the irony of it is, like, he's Greek. He's not a morning person. They stay up till 2 a.m. They have dinner at midnight. And now he's waking up at 4, 5, 6 a.m. to like go count cars. I'm like, are you sure this is what you want? But yeah.
No, I love the dedication. That would be me. Like, I find myself getting up right now. I'm really trying to. Kyle's gonna roll his eyes here, but I'm really trying to get
Right.
my personal Facebook content creation like off the ground. Facebook monetized my profile,
There you
so I've
go.
been getting up at like 5 a.m. recording really dumb like marriage skits at 5 a.m. because my wife. I was doing it like in the middle of the day, and she was getting irritated that I wasn't working and I wasn't helping with the kids. I wasn't being with her. I was just nonstop posting and editing
Did you
and
did you make that into a skit?
I could. It's on the list, but
There you
but
go.
I saw yeah, waking up at 5 a.m. to do seemingly dumb things is very
To grow your
it's very
career, to
calm.
grow your
Yeah,
brand, right?
to
Yeah.
give it a shot,
Yeah.
like I can spend a year doing this. If like it doesn't work out, I can look back and say, you know what, I tried really hard.
Yeah.
I got up early. I lost a lot of sleep trying
Mhm.
to make it happen versus like, you know, you're on your deathbed thinking like, what if I would have tried? And
Totally.
maybe it could have been something. And if it
Yeah.
wasn't, it wasn't. But what if it grows into, a big like millions
Yeah.
of dollars a year or whatever, like
Well,
life changing.
and I think that was my husband's standpoint of like, okay, my dad made all these sacrifices at 17 to come here, not even be able to speak English, and he had the success of the restaurants. And I think for Tommy, it's like, do I continue just to go through sales and be fine, or do I challenge myself and actually try to do that? And I think for him, it was a matter of wanting to make his dad proud and really value the risk that it took to come here. And I don't want to say the franchisees was the easy way out, but it was certainly the most simplest because it had the path already paved.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an easy way out.
Yeah.
I just think it's a different it's a there's for people who are maybe overwhelmed by just the ideation. Like
Mhm.
I don't want to create something. I want to be in business, but I'd love to have some semblance of structure
Yep.
to operate off of. And then they'll give that to you. And yes, you're taking a chance by putting assets or taking on loans to make it happen,
Yeah.
but effectively that franchise is also taking a chance on you
Yeah,
too.
100%. And then, by the way, at that point, they had already had over 800 stores that were successful. The amazing thing, and I can't disclose this, but in the FDD, like you look at the highest earner and you look at the lowest, and you're like, even if I fall in between, that will feel like success to us because that's an incredible value that we're bringing to the community as well.
Do you care? Obviously, we know what you're talking about with an FDD,
Oh,
but
yeah.
do you care to kind of talk about what an FDD is,
Yeah.
how it's relevant to the process, things like that?
Yeah, so an FDD is the federal the financial disclosed document, and it really outlines everything that holds you accountable from a franchisee. So it walks you through how much it's going to take to be an investment, or at least a range. It's going to walk you through the time commitment, what's required, the marketing guidelines, which Scooters is very, very tightened up on, and it walks you through really what to expect from an investment standpoint, and then what you can expect from a revenue, cost, profit perspective as well. It allowed me to create a forecast, which, coming from accounting, finance, it soothed my soul because I can see the data of all these 800 stores. And if they're profiting and generating revenue in this way, I feel like I can do the same thing with our grit and our grind of who we are, and the sales personality of Tommy and the COO of myself. And so the FTD really allowed us to dive into what we thought could be the business and the fruition that would come, by allowing us to see how others have done it.
So you run a pro forma and then you look at it, and what was the biggest thing that stood out to you from that that made you say, yeah, let's do it with this brand specifically?
Yeah. So I think for us, it was really measuring the revenue, while also being able to maintain, because I'll tell you, the profit it's not groundbreaking. You don't come in and make tons of money, but the whole point of a franchise is to do more than one. So once you get to the next one, that's when that wealth begins to kind of accumulate. So for me, it's like, okay, when I did the pro forma and the forecast, I'm like, this is obtainable. This is achievable. We hire the right people. We order the right things. I've looked at financial statements my entire career, so I can guide us in a way if we start to steer away from the pro forma. But to us, it just felt achievable because it's not like these numbers were astronomical.
I know we've talked when we met. We talked a little bit about kind of the aspirations for owning more than one. Do you have your sights set? Are you still trying? I know you guys are only like three months or
Yeah.
so into this new one, but do you have your sights set on like what's the next location, or are you really just diving all into the one that you have right now?
So when we first did this, we initially were like, we want to do 5. That sounds fantastic. But being realistic, I like to say I'm not naive. I'm just more realistic. I told Tommy, I'm like, maybe let's just start with one and devise the playbook for our family. And the idea was is that we were going to buy into one, and then once we got this off the ground and running, I can't remember the time frame, but Scooters, they give you a time frame where you can basically sign up for the next one and still own that area before they open it up to the other franchisees.
Like a right of first refusal?
Exactly. Yeah. And so what we've realized now is that the actual opening of the franchise is quite cumbersome for one person. Like, I think had Tommy had a partner who wasn't a mom of 3 and running her full-time job while also trying to open up her own business, he would have been, it would have been so much, I don't want to say easier, but a little less weight on the shoulders, to where he was like, it was a lot. It was, hiring all those people, training them, making sure that you've got the right team. So now that we've opened one, I think we really are focused on, let's make this one a super success and repeatable so that we can open the next one. Because although you get the templates and you get the things that Scooter sets you up for success for, and they do have so many resources, which makes me happy from a support system, it's still a lot of work. Especially with such a young family, I don't know if we anticipated how much work it was going to be.
So I want to take a step back just for a second and kind of talk about the financing of the endeavor. So you talked about an SBA.
Yeah.
There are a variety of different options. Like you could take out a HELOC. There's I think they call it a ROBS. It's a rollover for
Yeah.
business startup, which you can basically use your IRA money with no tax implications
Yep.
for the purposes of a business. Like, did you look at all these different
Oh, yeah.
options, or from the jump were you just like SBA? Okay, so you
No,
looked at these options.
I did. And
So
actually, we were actually really interested in the ROBS because it just felt easy. But for us, the ROBS would have taken longer to get set up, and it felt a little bit riskier. So where the SBA loan, it didn't feel like overwhelming.
yeah, and I guess just to over explain for people listening, like the ROBS accesses money in your retirement fund for the purposes of liquidity to roll into the business,
Exactly.
whereas an SBA is just going to be a personal loan set up for business purposes with specific interest rates and things like
Is
that.
there
And
collateral with your SBA though? Like
Yeah.
I imagine there's like a
Yeah.
person. What do you call it? A personal guarantee or
Yes,
whatever.
there's yeah, and then usually the way that the SBA is, and you can correct me if it was different for you, but the SBA tends to run 2 to 2.5 points above the current market interest rate.
Yeah. So
Which
actually, I think we're below 2. When we first started 3 years ago, it was like 1% ahead of LIBOR.
That's COVID.
Yes. And then by the time we found a location where we were ready to go, then we were getting 2.25. I think we ended up settling at like 1.75. And that was me, like us negotiating the hell out of that. But yeah, it's generally around 2+ points of LIBOR.
And I want to be respectful of the FDD and just the amount of work that you had to put in. But for anybody who's trying to conceptualize the amount of money that you had to put on an SBA, can you give us a range of what you had to do as far as upfront?
Yeah, well, so it really depends. It depends because some people will buy a plot of land and they'll actually construct the kiosk. We got really lucky that there was a beautiful building that was sitting empty and vacant that had never been touched. So we went in with a lease. So our financial responsibility, I think, is far less than the general scooters because we already went into a vacant building that we didn't have to construct from the ground up. But truly, I mean, it depends. It truly depends on now where you're going, because if you're in the Chicagoland area, you're putting a lot more skin in the game than if you're in rural Missouri, where land is cheaper, lease is definitely smaller. So it's really, really hard to give that range.
No, I get it. And that's probably why the FDD is not an explicit number. It's more of a
And
range.
it's a huge range. I mean,
Yeah.
truly. So, I mean, you could come in and thinking like, and here's a detriment to us is like, I think we were naive in speaking with the gentleman who actually has like the number one grossing scooters in the country. We were naive because we spent so much time learning from him, and we were like, oh my God, you have seen so much success. And now that we're in the Chicagoland area, we're like, we were gauging off of the wrong person. Yes, he's seen success, but he has seen success in rural areas, where if you think about it, like the next Starbucks is 4 miles down the road. Our Starbucks is literally 300 feet from us. So it was a tough gauge. That was the one thing I think I wish we would have done a little bit differently is interviewed more people in the like the Chicagoland area. Because one of the things that Scooters does, which is amazing, is like they open up their phone book and they're like, you call everybody, you make sure you cross all your bridges, all your fears, all the risks that you're in your mind, and you go talk to these people that have already done it.
It is funny though, because they put you with the guy who's doing the best
Well,
because
well,
they want you to buy in.
no,
But then you also kind of gravitate to him too because it's like they're successful and I want to be there. You're disagreeing. I'd love to hear it.
I'm disagreeing because he was the one that my husband was running through every day to go see my dad. So
Ah,
it was the fact that he was from my hometown,
It just
and
happened that way.
it did.
wow.
And then,
Huh.
and we didn't even know. It's not like he led with, "Hey, I'm number one. Did you know that?" No, it was, "Hey, this actually, it's been successful for my family because of XYZ." And then my best friend, it's a small town, so she knew we got her number from him or his number from her, and we immediately called him. But it wasn't because Scooter set us up with him. It was the fact that we went into Scooters and we were like, "Hey, we actually spoke with Bart Vandeven and he's seen wild success." And they're like, "Oh, you already know someone? Keep talking to him." But he was incredibly helpful too, because when I tell you that they have their operation so concrete and efficient, the playbooks and the checklists and all of the things, like they were like, take it all. You go be successful too. And I think that's the beauty of the franchisees and Scooters too, is like it is a community of support like I've never seen before.
Well, I want to say something about your location because I'm down the street and that corner. I guess what I want to say is I love your location and I hate your location
Yeah.
because that corner, that light at Belmont and Ogden there is the worst light in the morning going, I guess, west on
Yeah.
Ogden because it lasts like 2 cars. If you're trying to turn left there, it's like 2 cars get to go before it turns
Yeah.
red. And that has frustrated the heck out of me for so long. My daughter used to go to preschool over there,
Yeah.
and in the morning, you might sit there 3 or 4 lights before you actually get to turn.
Yeah.
But fortunate for you, you could just turn into Scooters while you're waiting for that light.
Yeah.
Probably
See,
make it through the drive-through and come back around and still, be not any loss for time.
yeah. And you know what's interesting and something that like I wish we would have thought about before. And these aren't things that scooters can set us up for success, because they only know data, right? So for us, we bought into that location because it was a beautiful building. It was right next to a gas station. We're right before a very busy highway. We're going down a very busy street. And for us, we're like, this is a no-brainer. But then what we realize is, hey, by the way, Downers Grove has really strict signage permits where you can only have one tiny sign. And so we're actually offset a little bit. And I think that's made it hard for our location, is that you don't realize you've passed us until you've already passed us. And so I think that's one thing that I wish we would have thought about differently, is because when we were sitting there, we were thinking about all of the traffic going east and counting all of that, because that's an easy in and out. But it's evolved in kind of a, now we need to really work on the brand awareness, because although it's a very busy intersection, people still aren't seeing us as they drive by.
Yeah, they don't know you're there, and so they
No,
don't have a reason to stop.
exactly.
Since you brought it up, as far as like, wish I could do this again, what other things come to mind as far as like, benefit, armed with the benefit of hindsight?
Yeah. So I think one thing is obviously location. I wish we would have gone into the city and the village a little earlier and understood the limitations of signage, because I think if we could have a big sign on the corner before you actually got to us, that would bring more people in. Or just even going down Ogden, like, which is a very busy street in the Chicagoland area. Just like even those flag signs you can't have. So it's like, my husband, God bless him, the first week we were open, he was out there in a Santa suit with a huge sign, and he's like, "Is this my low point, babe?" And I'm like, I think you're doing good, so like keep waving that sign. But I get it. So that was one thing. I think one other thing that I wish I would have known before is that you set up this pro forma, right? And like, I'm speaking to all of these successful scooters people. And I think Tommy and I really went in with thinking like, oh, we are going to be cash positive immediately. We're in a great location. How could we not? But then we're like, oh, we've got to pay for, training for, 30 employees before we even open. And then by the way, we're making a million drinks because we want them to learn. And so we were out a bunch of upfront money that I don't think, even though it was disclosed in the FDD, I think we skipped over that part because we were so excited to get open. So it kind of deflated us a little bit as we were going into also something we didn't know, being, in quick service retail, the slowest time of the year. And so, January perpetually is just the worst month for all of quick service. And so my husband, he'll be sitting in scooters and he's staring out the window, and I think he's just wishing for people to come in. I'm like, we got to do a little bit more than that. But
He's just staring at that Santa suit.
I'm trying not to keep laughing because when he hears this back, he's going to die a little inside. But yeah, I mean, I think that was the hardest part. And when they really force you, not force you, they suggest you get out in the community. And that was the one thing that drew us to Downers is, when I think about living in Hinsdale, it's such a tight knit community. And I think it mirrors in Downers. And that was really the honor of being in such a area like that. We do give back nights. We were hitting the gym and leaving so many coupons. We were hustling those car dealerships up and down, just bringing them free drinks as much as we could to keep driving that business. But one thing that I've realized is like, when the newness wears off, people tend to go back to what they're comfortable with. And so you have to earn that business. And that's something that I think we've learned now that we're 3 months in. It's like, yeah, we got those people the first 2 weeks because we were giving buy one, get ones. We were giving, $2 off, whatever. We got to keep those people coming back. And I think that's been a bit of the struggle now that we're kind of out of that newness.
One
I could
last
see,
thing,
let me,
Steve.
just real quick, I could see that
Yeah.
being really frustrating. Starting a new business, being so excited to get people in the door, and then starting with the signage issues, with the
Yeah.
the worst month for coffee in
Yeah.
the year, like just being, I could see that being a really,
Yeah.
like, how's business going? Like, well, ask me in 6 months.
Well, and that's the hardest thing is like, we're very, Hinsdale is very tight knit. We have a ton of friends. My husband's Greek, so he knows everyone. And then when you're getting questions at like New Year's and Super Bowl, and it's like, how's business? And we can't be like, oh my God, it's so awesome. We're like, well, we're paying our payroll, thank God. We're covering our inventory. But these are all things that had we opened in April, May, we would have experienced a completely different trajectory, because even our delivery guy, he's like, just wait. When the weather starts warming and the snow starts thawing, like, you're not going to be able to keep up. And I think we're so excited for that because we've been kind of watching cars go by, and especially even like, Chicago had its harshest winter. So not only were we coupled with the harshest winter, slowest January, it's just been a bit challenging to keep our momentum up. Like, I don't think our baristas see that, but like, we're still like, all right, we got to see the flow come in a bit more.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's right around the
Yeah.
corner. Just only thing I wanted to comment on real quick so that it doesn't get lost in the mix. You were talking about upfront costs. SBAs also require a 20% cash injection of the total amount, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
Didn't want anybody
And
listening to this to be surprised by that.
no, they don't. And one thing that was news to me, that and it's not like it hindered us in any way, but we had cash that we were also bringing in. So we did our 20% injection, but then we also had cash that we were intending to use to do like the equipment buying and stuff like that. You actually have to put that into your loan, because anything that gets paid to the business has to come out of the loan. So that was just kind of news to us as well. It was a bit of, I think it was just nerve-wracking for us to have to transfer that money out of our bank account, which felt really secure, and then we were rolling it into with the rest of our loan, and we're like, do we understand this? Like, we were literally at 12 a.m. like chat GPTing, like, why are they making us do this? It makes sense now because they like to control everything that's being a part of it. And if you think about it, like, of course, because it's buying the assets, it's paying for all of the costs that we have, so they want to be able to see that go in and out.
So to make sure I understand you correctly, you're saying that you had to basically pay down the balance of the loan and then borrow against it, or
No.
what are you saying?
What I'm saying is, we put our 20% in, but then we also had cash that we had in our bank account that we were going to pay for things as well. So that cash that would have normally just stayed in our bank account to pay for things, they asked us to roll it into the loan amount. We weren't getting charged interest on it, but anything that got paid. So essentially, if we had
Okay.
these aren't numbers for us, but like, if we had $1 million loan and we had 200,000 that we wanted to also put towards it, we rolled that 200,000 into it, so that anything that got pulled from the loan to pay for assets got pulled out of like all one spot, so that
That
they
makes
could
sense.
track it.
I thought you were saying that like they made you pay down part of the
No,
balance
no,
of
no,
the loan and then reborrow against it. I was like, that doesn't make that's just
They
no,
just want to
makes
see
it
the
harder.
records. They
no.
want everything flowing in and out of there.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think also one thing that I had learned, because I think it's helpful because we didn't know before, is the SBA. They don't make you start paying payments, and this is negotiable. When we were interviewing banks, we saw anything from 6 to 12 months, so you can be interest only for the first year of business, which has allowed us to really get our footing before we actually have to start paying for our quote unquote mortgage.
Yeah, like pay down the principal.
Yeah,
Well, I have one more question before we enter our last segment, unless Kyle has any other burning questions. But the biggest, or maybe the scariest part for me in thinking about franchising, specifically in like the, hospitality, food, coffee, beverages, all of that. Most of your workers are like high schoolers, and that maybe not most, but you tend to employ part-time people and
Top
have
of
to work
mind.
around their schedules a little
yep.
bit,
Mm-hmm.
extracurriculars, school. How has that gone for you in your first 3 months? And maybe do you have any recommendations for people to get to kind of overcome that mentality of like, man, what if my workers suck
Yeah,
or just like don't show up?
yeah. I'm going to take a deep breath, because when I tell you, when everybody asks what the hardest part is, that 100% is. That is what almost sent us to our grave before we even opened, because Scooters wants you to hire a certain amount of people. You're basically overstaffing. And I've spent my entire career working with the elite executives. Tommy was selling to doctors. So we've been around high caliber, and
People who are passionate about what they're doing.
100%. And so we're interviewing all of these people, and it's like, we've got this number in our head that we've got to have to even open. And we're like, it almost makes you feel like you've got to say yes, because how much can you really learn about an hourly worker in 30 minutes that like is going to make you say yes or no outside of truly do you have barista experience? Great. But also, the Scooters brand is to like walk in and have a smile. And I remember interviewing a few of them and I'm like, I need you to match my husband's energy. Like if Tommy was, EDM, like the second he wakes up, he's got a beat in his head. He's like, let's go. And I need you to match that. So, but it got to a point where it's like, all right, we need 30 people. And we're opening next week. Can you start immediately? And then, by the way, are you reliable? Are you trustworthy? Are you loyal? Are you coming with a great personality? Are you going to smile? Can you make the drinks? Can you work under pressure? These are a lot of things to ask for someone that's coming out of high school, that is in college right now, or maybe they're making this their lifetime career, which is great for them. But it's hard because now I'm putting my eggs in a basket of people that I don't know necessarily if they understand the risk that we have in this, and kind of like what we're holding ourselves accountable for. And it still catches me like now, like, because my husband this morning, I had to text him at 5:45. I'm like, why'd you leave so early? He's like, someone didn't show up. So when someone doesn't show up, he's the one going. And I think that's been the hardest part is, we do have some incredible people, but at the end of the day, they're working, they're making minimum wage. So it's hard because if they miss a day, no big deal. And for us, it's like, all right, well, you missed a day and now I'm taking on full mom duty while also managing this household. And so that's been the most difficult part. And then, we did overstaff. And I think for us is Scooters basically prepares us that there's going to be an exodus of some sort, but we didn't have anybody exit. And so now we're overstaffed trying to find hours, and it's during the holidays. And so we're like, well, we can't pay for all of these people. So we had to let people go during the holidays. And when I tell you that was freaking hard too, that was probably the worst part is the people perspective. It's because like you have to rely on them to show up and on time. Because if not, from our biggest rush from 6 to 7 this morning, we had one barista in there. And my husband, he's probably going 90 miles per hour. I hope no cops are listening down Ogden, and trying to hustle to get there so that she's not alone. So definitely the hardest part. And I think that's where I wish Tommy would have had more support preparing for that. But again, like we've had the same barista since we opened. And I think that says a lot about our leadership, or at least I hope it does, and the brand and the business in general.
It's tough because I see it from both sides. Kyle and I were in those shoes in our younger years at McDonald's. Maybe that's a little less because ownership is not like there's management and tons of employees that they can call for backup. But but just at like a regular corporate job, even like, for example, early in my career, they're like, oh, if you work real hard, you might get a bonus. And even that, you're like, do I really care enough to go above and beyond for the hope of a bonus?
Yeah.
But for a minimum wage job, you're like, why am I going to go above and beyond?
Yeah.
I'm just going to show up and make my minimum wage. But from an
really
owner's
funny.
perspective, you're like, you better show up and go above and beyond,
Exactly.
I'm the opposite of that though, because I'm the person that's like, I'm bad about applying my sensibilities to other people, where it's like, hey, if you're going to do something, do it well.
Yeah.
And like but I'm also kind of held prisoner by that sometimes, because sometimes I don't want to do something, because if I can't do it well, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Your
I'll
wife
wait until
is
I can
the
do it
same.
well.
I remember we went top golfing with you and your wife, and she didn't perform well and was like, I'm done. I'm just not going to play anymore.
I will do well. That's the difference. Is she's like,
She'll
I'm good.
just stop.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is now what I'm going to do until I'm good at it.
Yeah. Well, and for Tommy, who's there way more than he should. But for him, it's like, all right, they didn't show up, but I need them to show up tomorrow. So I got to pretend like everything's great. Like, yeah, that sucked you didn't come, but I need you to be back there tomorrow, even though, I'm over here like, hello, you just ruined our entire day. So it's hard because, for when you work in corporate America, I feel like yeah, you're depending on a lot of people. Really, you got to depend on you to make sure that your success is there. You're your own cheerleader, to where now we have to depend on 20 people to make sure that they're the success of the business, because by the way, they're interacting with the general public. So we want those amazing Google reviews. We want to hear great feedback, and we've got to make sure that our employees are happy, even though, they let us down. We got to kind of pass over it because we need them to show up tomorrow.
Yeah, you want to be honest, but then you realize pretty quickly you can't be too
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. And I
Or you have to be honest at a level that they can handle or
Yeah.
yeah.
Almost like, you know what, you let us down today, but I need you to not do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And for us is, Tommy is a good cop because he's sales, to where I'm more so like, excuse me, that is like reigns for termination. Let's move forward. But then it's like, okay, then we have to make the decision. Does that mean that I need my husband to go work 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow instead of a barista? So it's been a fine line. I think that's been the most challenging part.
You guys watch
Yeah.
Parks and Rec?
No, we don't. We have,
Oh.
we have 3 kids under 5. I don't have time to watch TV.
Well, we watched it.
Respect.
We binged it years ago, but I was gonna say you're the Ben Wyatt. Is it Ben Wyatt? Is that his name, Kyle?
You're doing great with
Chris
this analogy.
Traeger. He's the Chris Traeger, and you're the Ben Wyatt. Chris Traeger's like, I love my job because I always just like pretend like we can do it, and then I
Yeah.
ask Ben, and he's like, God, no, we can't do that.
It's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. But you know what? Like, because we have so much on the line, that like literally every day for the first 2 months, I'm like, Tommy, we got to get up and fake it. Like, I know you're tired. He's worked 160 hours this week to be there for the employees in case they do like feel overwhelmed or anything like that. I'm like, I know you're tired, but you got to fake it. You got to walk in with that EDM attitude and like too much caffeine and just go.
Get this man some coffee.
Yeah.
Get this man some coffee.
Yeah.
Perk of owning a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, real
Like,
quick,
our inventory is a little high this month.
Before we enter our last segment here, plug for us if people want to learn more from you or follow Scooters Downers Grove on Instagram or whatever. What are ways that people can kind of get in touch with you and follow your story?
Well, they can get in touch and follow our story if they come through the drive-through or the cafe.
That's a great way.
And we're at 2125 Ogden Avenue in Downers Grove. But also, we're at Scooters Coffee Downers Grove on Instagram. Same thing on Facebook. We're trying to get up and running on TikTok. Forgive us because we're millennials, but we'll get there. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to make a social footprint because at the end of the day, we want them to. They're constantly coming out with new product, and we want to continuously educate our customers. So we're live on all the socials for Scooters Coffee Downers Grove.
All right, Steve, do your thing.
All right. So we're in our last segment here quickly called What in the World? And this kind of like hot topics going on in the world right now that are maybe relevant to what you're doing.
It's not as serious as
I can't wait to hear what questions you come up with.
Well, so
I can't either.
I've written it down, so I'll just read.
Have you or has ChatGPT written it down?
Great question.
Both.
Yep, there it is.
I came up with the question. ChatGPT helped me workshop it, and then I came up with the final product.
Okay.
But I read an article, and it's about. That's not the article. It's about how technology has its efficiencies, specifically with like drive-throughs and the fast food industry. But this article was talking about how the biggest hangups in fast food is technology issues. And so it says restaurants are rolling out kiosks, AI voice ordering, mobile apps, all kinds of systems meant to make service faster and easier. But frontline workers are reporting that these systems are glitchy, often freeze, don't sync, and many customers actually walk away from their orders because of the technology issues. So instead of reducing friction, it's actually creating friction. So as someone who now is an owner operator of a Scooters franchise, have you encountered this? What's your take? I have thoughts. Kyle might have thoughts coming from McDonald's in our early years, but what are your thoughts on this whole topic?
I have 2 thoughts on this. I don't think Scooters will ever go to that because the entire brand recognition for Scooters is hospitality. We want you to interact. I tell all our baristas, I'm like, you get to know everyone's first name. You understand their dogs, like what do they like, their kids, you name it. So I don't think we'll ever move to that. But from a tech perspective, one thing that I do love, and it goes back to me loving data, is we do have our loyalty app. And one of the beautiful things about our location is that 50% of our customers pay with the loyalty app. And then I can take that to our baristas and say, hey, by the way, 50% of your tips are coming from the people that have the loyalty app. So for us, it's really about convenience of being able to just bring out their phone, we scan it, they get the rewards, they can know about coupons and promotions going on at the time, and then they can also easily tip our baristas, and then that allows me to motivate our baristas by saying, hey, always ask if they've got the app. If not, give them a coupon to download the app, because it just creates ease once they're there and quickness. And so if people want to get through, and maybe it's because we will never probably have AI, they're going to get through quicker using the loyalty app. So I love it in that aspect. I don't think we'll ever see that shift, because Scooters is all about hospitality and customer service.
That's great. I was at Chipotle a couple of years ago, and I was standing in front of the employee who I thought would take my order, and they said, "Sorry, our system is down. We are only accepting online orders."
Oh,
And I was like, "But I'm right here. Like,
yeah.
I want this, this, and this." And they're like, "No can do." I was like, "I even have cash.
Yeah.
No can do." I was like, "What is this world we've entered into that a system goes down and nobody can do anything?"
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but I think that that's kind of the path that we're going to, and as long as you can shift and be agile with it, like, you'll grow. I think Scooters, they're an old school model of that hospitality, but they are adhering to the tech from let's make it easy on the client, or sorry, the customers. But yeah, so I see it both ways.
I'm that person that's walking away from the kiosk because of the AI order difficulties.
Hmm.
I am the person who wants a car that is 0% computer. I feel myself aging with this take. I just feel like there is too much tech creeping into things that don't need to be. I saw an ad recently for an AI enhanced toilet and an
Oh,
app. And I was like, what are we doing?
does it get men off of it faster?
No, does it flush? That's all I need to know. That's all I need my toilet to do. One function, flush. It doesn't need an app. It doesn't need an assistant.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So
the other side of that though, like
no
my
on
buddy
that
works, and
on
I'm
the
not talking about
toilet.
toilets, no.
Okay, thank you.
The other side is that like my buddy works for corporate McDonald's, and I just found the article from, this was like 7 years ago, that McDonald's purchased a like data science company with I remember him telling me about it, that they had tracked all the data, all their drive-through data, time of day,
Yeah.
um, even the weather outside, like all these different factors, put it into their computer and found a way to increase. You know how like at the end of your McDonald's order, they'll be like, "Would you like an apple pie with that?" or
Yeah.
"Would you like a small fry?" Their AI tells you what to recommend
Yeah.
based on all of these factors, and they proved that they could increase sales by like 2%, which for McDonald's is like
Yeah.
$1 billion. I don't know what
Did
the
they?
number is, but and then so they bought it for $300 million.
Yeah.
So these couple of guys who just did this data tracking for however long
Yeah.
sold their business to McDonald's for $300 million.
So because I
I'm
love data so much, I track Scooter's net sales every hour, and I do the same thing. And so I'm texting Tommy from behind my computer while I'm working with clients. I'm like, throw in mini donuts for the next hour, give free cinnamon rolls for the next hour if they'll buy one more coffee. Like, because we're doing the same thing. Because when I tell you, like, it's been such a hard winter with like the snow, anybody that comes through, like, add something of comfort. So we've been doing that from our own manual perspective. I think it'd be really nice if we had 300 million to throw at a app to help us. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's smart though too, because you're also offloading inventory that may be about to expire,
Yeah.
so it allows you to manipulate it.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, because we're right next to a gas station, we will go just give people, if we've got something expiring tomorrow. And what's wild is it's expiring in the eyes of Scooters, but like there's no way this product is going bad. Like these cinnamon rolls, there's no way. Like I'll eat them 2 weeks from now.
Does
Nope.
a cinnamon roll expire?
I mean, ours does, but I guess that goes to tell you it's fresh. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll go give them to the people pumping gas, because we're like, okay, if we can win them over by giving them something free the next time they're pumping gas, hopefully they'll run over and get a coffee.
Yeah, that's great business. My buddy of mine, I own vending machines. I think
Yeah, you
we've
told
talked
me.
about that. And I only own 11, so I don't have a ton of data. But a buddy of mine the other day was like, have you like developed a price elasticity curve on your products and like all your locations? I was like, no, I have
I would have
not.
said yes and then went to ChatGPT and like, here's my data.
That's
Do it for
that's
me.
exactly what he said. He was like, just give ChatGPT your data and let him do it,
Yeah.
or her, or them.
I feel like I always
Yeah.
called her because I just feel like she's smart. But yeah,
It's just a
I'm
part of
glad
you.
you guys are the AI market. I'm really glad.
it's called being efficient.
Yeah, Kyle,
it-
get on board.
I
Kyle's never used ChatGPT.
no,
Maybe you
I
saw. I posted
mm-mm.
about it on Instagram recently.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So here's my thing. I think this encapsulates my feelings well. I'm not trying to be like the old man, like get off my lawn. I'm not. But I just saw a meme that I feel like encapsulates how I feel about this the other day. It said, I tried to do a Google search for a product that I needed. Thanks to the advancements in technology, that is no longer possible. So it's like, that's exactly how I feel about it. It's just AI's made it more complicated.
Yeah. Well, you know
I
what?
just
It's wild. So the defense tech VC that I came from, that CEO, like he taught me how to use ChatGPT to its utmost abilities. And like when you set up by projects, that's what I do now for all my clients. Like I have them all by project, so I can go in and be like, all right, chat, this is the latest like data. Tell me how to direct the team based off of what you see. And so instead of spending 3 hours doing it, I just accomplished it in 5 minutes. So I can give them more of my time. And that's why I love it.
the Winter Olympics is going on right now at the time of this recording, and the amount of time I've spent with ChatGPT learning curling rules. Where it's great because if you Google it, like look for an article, you might find an article that talks about a segment of the rules. But if you just like, what's the rule on this? AI will combine all the articles out there and tell
Yeah,
you
exactly.
precisely like what the rules are. And it's been great for me watching curling.
See, that's great, and that's a good use of it. But there's also people who are using it for like mushroom foraging, and they're getting poisoned because ChatGPT is like good to go, and it's like no. So
You should double check what's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always, double check. Stuff
And
like
maybe
that.
that's the thing. Is like maybe my social media algorithm is like this guy does not like AI. Here's everything that's wrong with AI.
possibly.
Here's more of
There-
it. AI is
right now.
using it. AI is working against itself by telling me how it's not good.
That's so funny.
But we really
Well,
appreciate your time.
yeah, all that
This has
said,
been a great conversation. I wish I could come buy coffee from you. The best I can do is support another scooters near
Yes.
me.
no,
Yes.
best you can do is come visit me and we can go to the scooters.
Sure.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I will do that when I'm in town, but I'm not going to catch a flight.
That's the next time we're together. We'll do a live podcast from the scooters
Oh,
booth.
We'll come
I
visit.
like that. We'll do that, and then it'll be like a touch base, and we can also meet your husband. And
Yeah.
Just
And then,
behind the
he can
scenes.
wear
and then we can eat expired cinnamon rolls. We're good.
Let's do
expired
it.
cinnamon rolls, and then if we do it around Christmas time, he can wear that outfit. if he wants.
Throw on the Santa.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, thanks for hanging with us today. It's been a pleasure. We, as always, wish you nothing but success.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure, guys. I appreciate it.